Welcome back to Beg, Borrow, Steal, the FM22 adventure where we're trying to take a team from the bottom of Spanish football all the way to the top without spending any money on transfers. And after our first episode, I got accused down in the comment section of turning in to a little bit of an optimist. Apparently I was a little bit too bright, a little bit too bubbly about life since taking over as boss at Europa. Well, don't you worry. Normal service has well and truly been resumed. We've played pre-season. I have a dark sense of foreboding about how this is all going to go. So I think we need to start in the finances screen. You're going to accuse me of using it just to get my excuses in early. You're absolutely right. That's what I'm doing. I just wanted to illustrate just how tight things are financially at our new club. We've got, 60,000 in the bank. That's dropping like the proverbial stone. I predict we could well be in our overdraft by the end of the month. But it's the wage budget that's been making things incredibly tight. When we took over, we had about £200 spare in the wage budget. We started bringing in a couple of players on trial. We approached a couple to see if we could sign them. They were asking for £800, £1,200. We found a lovely little centre-back from Brazil. He was asking for £2,000 per week. We've done a little bit of business. It's pushed us over our wage budget, and if results don't go our way early on in the season, I think that could come back to haunt us. But it means that we have been able to get a couple of players in. We'll show you, but I would be watching from behind the back of the sofa. So before we get into those transfers, let's just show you our youth setup first of all, because there is not a single player that we have in the youth ranks at Europa. So there was absolutely nobody to call on top of the players I showed you in our first episode. We've now brought in a few staff. We've got a fairly professional head of youth development, and we don't have the worst facilities in the world for a club of our size. So I'm hopeful that when we get that first youth intake towards the end of the season, well, with adequate recruitment, albeit in a pretty competitive local market, and with adequate academy coaching and average youth facilities, they are not tragic. They're not as good as other clubs in our division, but we might get a player or two that we might be able to round out over the next couple of seasons and turn into a player. But there is nothing in the youth team at the moment. So we had to try and strengthen them. And strengthening proved pretty tough because of the financial constraints. We've brought one player in permanently, and we've managed to get 4 players to come in on loan, 2 of which we're not paying a penny towards, and the other 2 we're just paying a small fraction towards their wages. So let's go through it by order of positions. The comment section said it loud. The comment section said it clear after episode 1. You're going nowhere until you get a centre-back. Well, I found 3 great centre-backs. I found a Mexican centre-back who wanted £1,000 a week. We had a little Brazilian who wanted £2,000 a week. And I found another pretty decent centre-back who wanted £800 a week. We could not afford to dance with those particular players. So we've bought in Guillermo Smittarella. Now, I know he is not sublime, but he doesn't have massive weaknesses to his game like some of our other players. He's not the quickest, but he's not paceless. He's not the best tackler, but it doesn't let him down. He's not the strongest, but it's reasonable. He's not the bravest. He's not the most aggressive. His marking is not phenomenal. In fact, I'm talking myself out of signing this player altogether, but he's solid. He's steady. And when you compare him to what he would have been replacing, well, I think he has some advantages over our other defenders. It means that for today's game, he can come into central defence alongside Arno. And we've got 2 reasonably quick, reasonably good in the air, reasonably solid centre-backs, which might mean that we're a little bit less vulnerable than we thought we might have been after episode 1. But the comment section are also saying your midfield is suspect. They've got strength of 3, bravery of 5, determination of 2. Well, we've brought in 2 new central midfielders. One of them's come in on loan, and we're not paying a penny towards his wages. This is Hamza El Hachi, who, again, like Smitterella, is solid, if not unspectacular. The lowest area of his game is rated at 8 out of 20. The trade-off is the highest is only 12, but he's solid, he's steady. And again, if we would like to compare him to some of the other players that we had in the side who had strength of 6, determination of 6, and bravery of 6, well, I think we've traded up again. And El Hachi is going to play for us today. He's going to be in midfield, starting alongside a player who we are contributing a little bit towards his wages. This is the Uruguayan Juan Villacava, who we are paying a staggering £230 a week towards his almost £900 wages. He's coming on loan from Ferrell. We've taken him in off the streets, and I reckon he's actually a pretty reasonable midfielder. If you have a look at what you'd like out of a player who's going to run around and try and be a nuisance and win the ball occasionally, he's pretty aggressive. He works incredibly hard. The tackling is not superb, but if he ever does win one, he can lay it off to a teammate physically. He's pretty reasonable. He could go and play out on the left if we have an injury crisis. So there's our first 3 players through the door, and those are the good ones, if I'm honest, because we also needed a little bit of cover on the flanks. We didn't really have any decent backup there. We still don't have any decent backup there, but I've at least brought in another body. This is Alasini Karoma, who is quick enough. The dribbling and the crossing are okay. The passing and the vision are okay. He's another player who is suspect when it comes to gym work. He is frightened of his own shadow, and he makes awful decisions. But as a player on the bench, and as one who's not getting paid any money out of our wage budget to be here on loan, he's okay. He's all right. And then we also needed a little bit of backup up front. I don't think this is going to be our starting striker, although, whisper it quietly, he thinks he's here as our starting striker. This is Fulton Medina, an Ecuadorian. He's pretty similar to what we've already got, to be honest. He's reasonably quick. He's a decent finisher. His off the ball is fine, but his composure is terrible, and he ain't going to do a lot of work tracking back for the team. But he's an extra body on the bench, and we're only paying 25 quid a week towards his wages. So those are the transfers that we've got in. We best show you how it affects the tactic. So in the last episode, we asked you to vote on whether we should go with a 5-2-3 or a 4-3-3, and it was pretty conclusive. About 65% of you went with the tactical setup you see on screen there, and with the players we've brought in, I think we've got a first 11 that's going to be reasonable in this shape, although cover-wise we're not looking great. I'm still fairly confident that our mate Sergio is going to be a decent goalkeeper. Doesn't have any gaping weaknesses to his game, aside from perhaps not being the most agile or having the best reflexes, but other than that, he is solid. Fullback-wise, we were happy with what we had, although one of them's had a good pre-season. The other perhaps not quite as strong, and it's not the way round you might think. Guti has played well enough, averaging over a 7 in pre-season, but he's only got the 1 assist. It's actually Fruit Pastels that's weighed in with 5 assists in 10 games, so that probably means he's going to get a 6.1 and give away a penalty today, but he's been good in pre-season in terms of centre-backs. Now that we compare Arno with Smitty, I think we've got 2 players that are relatively solid back there. The quickest strikers in the league will outpace them. The biggest and strongest strikers in the league will be able to outmuscle them, but against most opponents, I think they'll be okay. And the signing of Smitty means that we can move one of our ageing centre-halves, Alberto, to play as a half-back for us. His physicals are falling off the edge of the proverbial cliff, but if you take away those downward arrows, which do play a bit of a Jedi mind trick on you, they're not terrible yet. And I think until we get to the January window, he might be our best option to play in front of that back 4. Our 2 lone boys will be in the centre of midfield. And then we got a front 3 who had a bit of a mixed bag during pre-season. Solsona got injured and has only managed to score 1 goal during pre-season. And in the games he did play, didn't look that sharp. But out wide, we looked better. Geordie had a good pre-season, 2 assists and 3 goals. And then the little man, David Jimenez, well, he managed to get 4 goals during pre-season and chucked in an assist. And the guy who's 5'5" and has a strength of 1, well, he was a good little operator for us. So we're ready to go out and take on our opponents today. Before we do, I think we should show you the pre-season form and have a look at the team we're going to be playing on the opening day of the season. So the fixture list could certainly have been kinder to us. Today we're going to kick off our season against the team who are predicted to finish 3rd. They're 4-1 shots for the title. I reckon they're going to be a pretty strong outfit. It's going to be a bit of a baptism of fire. And to be honest, from our pre-season form, I'm not really sure how good or how bad we are, because there's a bit of a mixed bag of results. We had 2 defeats in there, but against teams from much higher divisions. Espanyol are our affiliate club. They're obviously in the Primera Liga. They absolutely whooped us 5-0. Our other defeat was against 2nd Division Cadiz. Perhaps no disgrace in that. The games we won, well, we didn't keep that many clean sheets in. We had a good 4-0 win in one game, but in a lot of the other games, we looked very fragile defensively. When we tried to score goals, we leaked a lot at the other end. When we tried to keep things tight, we struggled to make the breakthrough. I guess you could say we didn't lose to anybody during pre-season that was from the same division or lower than us, but there were games against teams from the non-leagues that we weren't able to see out. So today's game is going to be a tricky one. Let's cross everything we've got. Could we get this off to a positive start? Could we get a win on the opening day of the season to set us up for our first campaign at the helm? Let's get out there and find out. Okay, everybody, welcome to Europa. We are underway. Let's just see how this goes. We're up against a tough team, but you never know. We've got some pacey players, maybe. They might be able to spring a surprise for us. This is the start of what could be an epic journey. Let's see how it goes. Smitty, by the way, a centre-half who takes free kicks for us. And he was on the score sheet in pre-season. And after 20 minutes, we're attacking again. And here he is, Solsona. He's being crowded out a little bit. And there's your finishing of 8 for you. But we forced a chance early on in the game. We'll take it. We're into the highlights again. My goodness. 23 minutes. Here's Fruit Pastels. He's got Geordie in down the right-hand side. I'm tempted to say we've actually made a reasonable start. And here's the little man. And he's got it back to Javi Solsona. 23 minutes gone on the opening day of the season, and we've only edged ourselves into the lead. And there was some good link-up play there, wasn't there? Here's Pastels. Gets it out there to Geordie. It's actually one of our lone midfielders that sends in the deep cross, and the little man, well, he's an artist, isn't he? He has just dabbed a little effort back. And Solsona has nodded us into the lead, I think even. Opening day of the season. Shall we give him a little bit of praise? That should concede the equaliser pretty sharpish. Certainly help with the old body language. We're trying to build bridges with the squad, by the way. They're not huge fans of our arrival, with no coaching badges whatsoever and only experience of Sunday League football. We've asked for a coaching badge already. We were turned down for that. That was helpful. But we've had a really decent first half there, haven't we? We're going to go in, give the boys a team talk. Could we hold on for an opening day victory? Well, that would be a good start. Okay, we are back underway and we've got some pretty good match ratings out there. It's only really Arno at the back who's not playing great. And Guti, I did tell you, didn't have the greatest pre-season. He's not playing fabulously back there. We've raced our way through to 63, 4, 5 minutes. I think we already need to have a little look at who's tired and thinking about making some substitutions. We've now got Arno, who's on a 6.4. That's a little bit worrying. And old Geordie out there, he's not having a great time either. I think we'll freshen things up on the wings. I think to change Arno at centre-half means bringing on quite a pedestrian replacement. We might try and leave that one a little bit. We'll get the game back underway again. We're now racing towards 70 minutes. We've not got an XG of 1 yet, even though we're in the lead. It's been quite a quiet second half. We've got 15 minutes to go. I think we'll make another couple of changes. And if this just peters out to a 1-0 win, I am not going to turn it down. Okay, we're back underway. We've freshened things up. It's going to be a long old season for this squad. We've only been able to register 20 outfield players. It wouldn't let us register any more. And until we get to a stage where we can actually offload some of our players to make a bit of room in the wage budget, I don't think we'll be able to strengthen any more in January. We tried to ship out 5 different players during pre-season. There was no takers for any of them, and it meant that we were a little bit restricted in the business that we were able to do. We're now looking to see whether we can make a bit of a difference from this corner. These corners, by the way, Jeff down in the comment section has been working on for us. He's got a nice little near post thing going on when we get corners on our left. Wasn't able to force anything that time, but we're getting our way into injury time. There's plenty of it. It's ticking through. We're on 63, 64. We might just be able to see this out, you know, kids. And we've got our campaign off to an opening day 1-0 win. And you have to say, there's some pretty decent performances out there. Old Arno on a 6.4 was concerning, but everybody else has come in and played really well. And I think the front three, including Karoma when he came on, looked pretty decent out there. We finished with an XG of 2.29, 12 shots, 8 on target. Solsona with the only goal. Jimenez looked good, assisting him for it. And old Smitty has come in and pulled an 8 back there. And Fruity Pastels is on an 8.3. I'll tell you what, that's a decent start to the season. We're even going to give them a little bit of a gesture. Should we put the old hands in the... Nah, let's outstretch the arms and just say, well done. We're trying to make a bit of an impression on the dressing room to try and get a bit more support from the squad. So we have got our first win of the season in our first game. Our next task is to go away and get the first third of the season done. When you come back for Monday's episode, we're going to see whether this opening day victory was a bit of a flash in the pan, or whether we might be building something in our first season as we try to beg, borrow and steal our way out of this division.